up there. Are we ready to go? Patrice, are we ready to go?
We are as ready as you are.
Okay, well, wait a minute. We wanted to make sure Nicole was here because nothing starts without.
I was running the streets.
That's all. That's all good. Well, why don't we begin with, we do have kind of an ambitious agenda here, to say the least. So first of all, good morning, welcome. And for those of you that are visiting us via Zoom, we are the Community Advisory Board for Contra Costa County. We're known as CAB. Ariana, would you be kind enough to call for?
Absolutely. Good morning, CAB members. Starting with Crawford Carpenter,
Present.
Nicole Green,
Aye.
Ozzy Carter,
Present.
Brenda Lee,
Present.
Raina Moore,
Present.
Scott Parsons,
Here.
Latanya Thompson,
Present.
Justin Van Zerber,
Present.
Raina Hurley.
Present.
We have 9 members present. Quorum is established.
Thank you very much. Prior to getting started, let's set the table here for board members and for those of you that are in the audience. Let's now address housekeeping items. To begin, persons who wish to address the Community Advisory Board bring public comment may do so in person, by Zoom, or if you are just calling in. Those participating in person should make public comment when called upon. Those participating via Zoom should indicate they wish to speak by using the raise your hand feature in the Zoom app. Those calling in should indicate they wish to speak by pushing *9 to raise your hand, and then *6 to mute, and *6 again to unmute. Let's talk about our purpose. Our purpose here is to advise the Community Corrections Partnership, that is CCP, by providing information pertaining to the county's efforts in criminal justice reinvestment. And I'll just touch on some of the ways we wish to accomplish this. We provide input on community needs. We are assessing the implementation of the Contra Costa County Reentry Strategic Plan. And we offer recommendations for ongoing realignment planning. And we should also state here that we're grateful to the board members that have found the time to visit with us here today. And we really appreciate your commitment. Before we get to work, though, we want to recognize, my partner in crime here, who I started with, who has returned to the board after an illness, believe it or not. But she was in an auto accident trying to get to our board meeting. So, Ozzy, welcome back, and we're looking forward to your participation. I think we need to keep in mind here that one of our other purposes, excuse me, is that we are here to assist many individuals who have a lesser voice than what we do. So let's ensure that we keep that in mind as we move forward. Now let's move to introductions first, and we're going to cover, and I'll start over with you, Justin. Please state your name and the section of the county that you represent, if you would.
Yeah, good morning, Justin Van Zerber, West County.
Renee Hurley, West County.
And I'm Crawford Carpenter, Central County.
Latanya Thompson, West Contra Costa County. Ozzy Carter, East County.
Brenda Lee, West County.
Scott Parsons, Moraga Central.
Rena Moore, East County. Nicole Green, East County.
Thank you. Are there any staff members that would like to introduce themselves? Let's start in the room. Excuse me here a minute. Okay, Patrice, please.
Hi, everyone. Bruce Gillard here from ORJ.
Mariana, would you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Garyana Youngblood, and I'm also with the ORJ.
And I notice on the screen, Jill Ray, and if we have others from our supervisor offices or from county agencies, would you be kind enough to introduce yourselves? Why don't we start with Jill? Okay, let's move then.
Hi
to-
there. I'm sorry. It just took me a minute. I'm on a different device, out of town, but Jill Ray with Office of Supervisor Candace Anderson.
Thank you. Is there anybody else there that would care to? Jana?
Jana Evans, Office of Education, Game Plan for Success.
I'll go next. Hi,
Anybody?
good morning, everyone. My name is Alejandra Sanchez. I am a district representative for Supervisor Ken Carlson.
Thank you. Is there
Susan
anybody-
Woodhouse, Public Defender's Office.
Thank you.
And if I may, I'd like to introduce our new program coordinator with the Office of Reentry and Justice. It's Michelle Elizondo. Say hi, Michelle.
Good morning, everyone. I'm really happy to be here.
Great. All right, well, thank you. The next thing here is for those of you that are on Zoom, would you kindly introduce yourselves in chat? Let's move to the next agenda item. Are there any announcements? Let's start with the board first. Any announcements? Okay, anybody in the audience, any announcements? Yes, please.
Just wanted to share my, or ORJ sincere gratitude to the community for all of the various stakeholders who supported pushing our restorative justice community survey out. We had a whopping 770 responses. So we are working right now with our contractors to analyze information from that as well as our focus groups. We will be planning sometime in January to do a report out to the community. So a similar stakeholder workshop, where we'll report out the findings from our presentation. So thank you again for everyone who took the survey, who passed it along to your networks. It really made a difference.
Wow, that's quite a response. Any other announcements? You know what, I'm gonna fall out of this. Any other announcements?
I have an announcement.
Yes, please.
The Reentry Success Center is scheduled to begin our next Alpha cohort this Monday, November 13th. So if you have anyone interested, it's not too late to get them connected to the program. And we are also excited to announce that we are having our annual Fall Festival on Tuesday, November 21st from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
Thank you.
Can you send me those flyers?
Yes.
Okay. Moving now to the next item, item number 2 on the agenda. Is there any public comment on any item under the jurisdiction of the Community Advisory Board, but is not on our agenda? Any public comment? Let's start in the room first. Any public comment? Seeing none, let's go to the Zoom participants. Any public comment? All right, then let's move then to the next item on the agenda. The next item is item number 3, and thank you, Garyana, for putting that up. The approval of our record of actions from our meeting on Tuesday, October the 12th. That was our special general meeting. Might we have a motion for approval?
Sure. Yeah, I'll move that we accept the minutes from our October 12th meeting. It shows that it convened on one page at 10 a.m., but someone was late. We started really at 10:31.
Okay.
But
You have a second?
This is Nicole. I second that motion.
All right. We have a motion We have a second. Do we have any discussion from the board first? Is there any discussion from those here in the room? And finally, is there any discussion from those of you that are joining us via Zoom? Seeing none, we're rolling along. Let's call the vote, please.
Crawford,
Aye.
Nicole.
Aye.
Ozzy,
Aye.
Brenda.
Aye.
Raina Moore,
Aye.
Scott Parsons,
Aye.
Latanya Thompson,
Aye.
Justin Van Zerber,
Aye.
Raina Hurley.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Ariana, would you be kind enough to move to attachment 2? This is item number 4 on your agenda. Attachment 2, pages 8 through 13.
Yes, I can.
And my-
Crawford, Jill has her hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jill, yes.
Yeah, I was just gonna note, since all members are present in the room, you don't need to do roll call vote. You can just do a simple call for votes. Ayes, nays, and abstentions.
Thank you. You told us what they thought of us there. Okay. All right, let's move then. Item number 4, Nicole, you're gonna have a busy day.
Yes, I am.
Okay, all right.
Item number 4, we're just bringing it back because we didn't have it as a voting item. So this is our final recommendation for 2020-2025, with updates that we discussed at our last meeting. So we're bringing it back to vote on it now as a voting item. Starts on page 8 through 13 if you want to look through it, but these are all the final. There were no additional updates since our last meeting. It was just brought back to the vote. Is there any discussion with board members in reference to the recommendation?
Let's go around the room. This is important. Okay, we're fine. Renee, okay, fine,
No
fine.
questions?
Okay, let's make sure. Okay, we're good to go.
We're good to go. So
All right then. We want to call the vote. We have a motion.
A motion to call this.
oh, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I second the motion. Go ahead. I apologize.
No, but wait a minute. I thought we do motion. Then after the motion, then we have discussion. Am I out of sequence or?
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, thank you. Okay, motion.
We call the motion.
Okay, approval. Okay, is there a second?
I second that.
Okay,
motion.
now let's go to discussion. Is there any discussion here at the board?
No discussion.
Okay, is there any discussion for those in the room? Is there any discussion for those of you via Zoom? Oh, I got us out of sequence there.
And I can
Patrice,
add some,
Okay.
okay, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
And just add some detail for the public if you have not had a chance to view the recommendation. We added some, we continue with the recommendations 1 through 6, we added some more detail for feedback that we received from surveys, as well as excess funds to kind of elaborate on a bit more. And then we added the recommendation number 7, which is the post and pre-release. So if you haven't had a chance to look at them, that's over, this is the time to ask any questions about them, but that's the most changes that's been made.
Okay, let's review then. We have a motion, we have a second, we've had discussion. Any other, want to make sure we complete our discussion? All right, then let's call the vote, please. Is there a way we can do it? I believe Jill gave us a way to make this kind of short and sweet. Okay, would you please do that, Ariana, if possible?
Well, no,
Yes.
you would just call the vote, say, all in favor? Aye. All
all right.
opposed? Any abstentions?
Okay, hey, you'll get straight here. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Hey, mine's where we did it, Patrice. So I'm not sure.
Any abstentions?
Okay, it's, oh, wait a minute. Abstentions. Or presence. Okay, all right, so the vote carries. All right, is that all you had on that item?
Yes.
Okay, then you're up again here. Now, this is gonna be, maybe it's gonna take a little discussion. We're on item number 5. We want to discuss the overview of our fiscal year 24-25 AB 109 budget request. And this is going to be interesting. The show is yours, and when you're done, I've got some questions on each of the items based on the page numbers. So
Okay.
Be ready, Gary.
All right, so I'm very excited about this meeting. Thank you all for coming and joining us today. So policy and budget, we did have our previous meeting. Don't forgive me, I can't think of the date of right now. But our CBOs did participate. We reviewed their requests. What you have in front of you right now is from policy and budget standpoint, the requests that were submitted that we wanted to recommend to move forward. There were 2 providers that we did not get to hear from that we do want to review with you all today, which is Centerforce as well as Laos, as well as have you all, I believe, don't quote me if I'm wrong, majority of these presentations were done at programs and services as well. Based on what was presented, those that were, and it's just to make sure there's not a confusion, these are not in relation to the access funds. This is just for the 24-25 budget. So it's an adjustment to their, and correct me if my verbiage is wrong, it's an adjustment to their current budget. And keep in mind, this is the last year for their budget in reference to the funding that they requested for. So me and Justin, during our meeting, we agreed to move forward those that were requesting funding for items that they additionally have already on their budget. So they're asking for additional funding or allocation to what they already have that's existing. Some of it was around FTE, some what was around program fees. RSC was asking for some funding in reference to maintenance as well as some existing programming that they have, which is all in there. We can actually go through each section as Crawford said. They're here to address any additional questions that you all may have. And the goal is for us to, ask questions if you have, but from a policy and budget standpoint, again, we were okay with moving forward with everyone that submitted and then review with Centerforce and Laos on what their submission and make that decision today amongst all of you all in reference to their requests. The only one that we did not move forward, and I appreciate their handout that they brought, was for Men and Women of Purpose. It wasn't that we didn't move forward. We felt like we wanted to hold on to that for the excess funds in reference to our work groups and have more conversation about that. I believe they passed out a flyer that gave more information on what they're asking for. And it's a brand new service to cover East County. And so that's not part of this agenda, so I won't talk about that much, but that's left for the excess funding. So I will leave it open and we can now go down each item in front of us. And yeah, jump in, Patrice.
Okay.
Come on.
Just to add a little bit more context as well. So every year around this time, all of the AB 109 funded agencies will be submitting their budget requests to the CCP. And the CCP will be holding what's called their budget workshop, which will take place on November 17th. So it's the CAB body that has the ability to recommend funding for our AB 109 community programs. That is what is before you today, is to review the recommended requests that, as Nicole mentioned, policy and budgets were deliberated, and you all will take action today to have that be considered during the CCP budget workshop. What you're seeing on the screen now is the actual budget request form that all agencies have to fill out. So our fiscal team here in probation took the liberty of doing this for you. So the main items that you'll see here are the contracts lines, the voice quarterly newsletters, and the CAP operating expenses. Obviously, the bulk of the requests that came from our community program providers are in the line of contracts. So you're seeing here that from their baseline funding, total baseline funding for 23-24 is just over 6 million. It will increase to for baseline funding of 6.7 million with an additional program modification that we include here, and I'll talk about what that is in the next page. But ultimately, you'll see a full request for next year of 7.1 million. We can go to the next page.
Before we go, I have a question. This is page 14. Is there a way you could make that a little bigger, or, because I've got glasses and I think you're on page 14?
Yes.
Great. Okay, there's an area there, and this is for the next board. It's so important. How do they have access to the I think it's $3,000? What is their process? And what is that for? So that they should be aware of that.
So that allocation, it's a legacy one, historical one for CAB. It's funding made available for costs that come about for supporting your CAB retreats, or if there's any sort of consultation that you guys are looking for, speakers that you're looking for, trainers that you're looking for, that will help enhance the operations of the CAB body. So that's what that allocation is for. We will be utilizing that to have lunch for your CAB retreat.
The lunch lady here.
That's encouraged by the board, so we will utilize it for that purpose.
And is there any type of notice they have to give you prior to accessing those funds?
Like notice that they have to get.
Yeah, like, yeah.
So if there are certain costs, like if there's certain trainings you like to have, or any ideas that are coming about, obviously should be discussed and recommended by the board to then direct ORJ to look into that and see what ways we can procure that. So,
Okay, so time frame, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something of that nature, a month,
for which,
if they want access to funds.
so I would say keep it in alignment with your meetings.
With the meetings, okay, so basically a 30-day or something.
Actually,
Thank you.
okay, fine. All right, and if we can go to the next page would be the program narrative, or budget narrative to describe the breakdown, but if we can instead go straight to 16. So these are the requested increases by all of the agencies, with the exception of WOW and with the exception of WOW and Health Right 360 will have a slight increase as well, and you'll hear just them in center course together. During policy and budgets meeting, they heard from the Reentry Success Center about having a one-time allocation for maintenance costs or renovations, actually. So we put that in as a program modification request. In addition to including in their baseline amount any of their existing line items where they are looking to expand resources. So for their community events, care packages, what have you. We took that same approach for mostly all of the contractors, given what Nicole mentioned, that a lot of the requests were really just an expansion of what was already existed. So we included that in the baseline. The other program modification is the $200,000 for Rubicon. This is for their 81 unemployment program. They also had other requests. Again, that was more in alignment with their existing costs. But this request came in order to sustain the expansion of their employment services for pretrial clients. This is a contract that is soon to be executed for that is being covered through probation. And I did talk internally to see if there was, word yet as to whether that contract will extend into 24-25. We did not get a definitive answer on that. So, but because it is will be a continuation of something that will be kicking off, we included it here as part of a program modification with this. Hopefully that makes sense.
I have a question. Are you
Yes.
still on Rubicon?
That's yes.
Okay. On Rubicon, the question is, could we maybe elaborate? Because when you look at the overall budget, the increase is approximately $1 million. And of that $1 million, 685,000 of that is going to Rubicon, or basically 2/3 of the overall budget. And I was just wondering if there might be a brief discussion for the distinction between Rubicon has $505,000. And in that, they have the enhanced pretrial services, 200,000. And then there's the stipend for supported training, 195,000. In the narrative, they kind of refer to each other. Might that, I was just wondering, could there be a little more explanation to that? Because my first thought, because I had to go back and read it again, is if are we talking about the same thing, and what is the extension then?
As I'm trying to follow your question here, or when you're asked, so are you asking what is the total 500,000?
Oh, no, I understand the 500. Of the 500,000, there are two major ingredients. The first was enhanced pretrial services. Might somebody share what that is? And in addition to that, share what the stipend supported training is.
Gotcha.
Just those two. I mean, the other,
Yeah.
we don't want to. But I'm just looking at large dollar amounts so that those of us here have an understanding of what's the detail for it.
So I think we had someone on from or really, I don't know if you
Sure.
could say the
This is
details.
Dante wants to talk about pretrial.
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in if that'll work. Good morning, everybody. Is everyone able to hear me well? Yep. Okay. Dante Blue with Rubicon Programs, and in terms of the enhanced services for pretrial population, I think Patrice was kind of alluding to this in terms of how it appears on attachment E, and in conversations right now, having a contract executed for the pretrial population. So this is a population that has not, who are still in the trial process, so they haven't necessarily been convicted yet, if they will be convicted. But it's a way to kind of engage with that population early. And what this service does is it offers a couple of things. One is an incentive to get involved in the services. And so for showing up, doing a plan and starting to work on that plan, there was a $100 incentive. It also increased the amount of two types of work-based training that you could get. One is where an employer does an on-the-job training, created some funds for that, and then another for transitional employment as well. And then the last piece was that didn't exist, and this is, I think, what you were talking about, kind of how they refer to each other, is that part of that contract provides stipends for individuals who are going into training. And so because that's something that'll be offered for the pretrial population, but wasn't being offered for other populations, I think that was that internal referral that then when we put in the referral for the regular employment, we said, hey, this is something innovative that we're doing with pretrial. We should look at doing that for the non-pretrial population as well. So that was kind of that internal referral or internal kind of, I think, speaking back between those two. But those are the four main components of the enhanced pretrial. Again, that's incentives, two type of work-based learning, and then the stipend-based training support.
Well, thank you. And there were a few presentations, Dante, at programs and services where individuals were talking about that stipend support. So I just wanted to make sure you had a chance to cover that, to explain it. Thank you very much. We're still on Rubicon. I have another question here on page 16 here. Rubicon Reentry Success Center. I just thought I'd make a comment here that I thought that was a well formulated line by line detail for your requested funds. And I thank you for that, because you didn't have to do a lot of digging and go through a lot of pages to figure out what the Sam Hill you wanted. So I just wanted to say thank you. It was laid out, and some other groups may want to take a look at that approach in the future, but it was very, very well laid out. So thank you. I'm done with my questions on Rubicon. I'm sorry.
I have two questions. One is a broader question, one is more technical. So on this document here, we look at Rubicon programs, bottom line, it says 150K for the modification. But then when we go to the variance column, it shows 180K. Ariana, I don't know if there's a mathematical equation that was not formulated correctly. Because they're 2023, 24, and 24, 25 are equivalent. So we're missing 30K somewhere. And then the second question is just a broader conversation about pretrial services. I know that AB is looking to support pretrial services, but wanted to dive into if AB 109 funds can actually be used for that if someone isn't yet convicted of a crime. I don't know who would answer that question, but I was just thinking about it as he was speaking. And maybe that's a question for accounting. Yeah, you're good. So just the broader question on pretrial services, if AB 109 funds can actually be utilized for that because the individual isn't yet convicted.
Yeah, so they are an eligible clientele for those services. I think what Rubicon is pointing out here is that with the new contract that's coming online with probation department to specifically target a good chunk of those, that then with those resources, they're able to ensure that that programming continues to be dedicated to those individuals and leaving other slots of the other employment services that's currently being other folks that are on the tier system. That makes sense.
I think so.
Okay.
Thank you. Those are my questions.
Okay. Are we still on this page? Can we go wow? I mean, or wait a minute, any other questions regarding Rubicon? Okay, then we'll move to Lau, but before we do, we have a special guest.
Pop in and say good morning. You had a chance to meet. I'm EC McCraft, the Chief Probation Officer, and usually I don't get a chance to pop in here because it conflicts with another meeting. But I was on my way there and I was like, let me just stop in and say hi to Cap, because I know you guys are doing some really important work today around the budget, and I really appreciate that. We have an entirely separate budget also out of AB 109 for pretrial as well, so just to alleviate that concern. In addition to other pretrial funding because of the state's expansion of pretrial services. But just wanted to pop in and say hi and appreciate the work you're doing. I know that it's a full agenda today with this, and we've got CCP next week, so it's kind of urgent and pressing, but glad you're doing the work, and I'm sorry I can't stay longer today. My secretary has put these meetings on my calendar now. So hopefully I'll be able to get it for the entirety of a meeting next time. All the time after, we'll see. But it's so good to see you all. Thank you.
Yeah, well, thank you, but more important, thank you, Scott, because when we had our ambassador meeting.
I am committed to getting there.
I'm so pleased.
So,
when you know better, you do better, Scott.
but just to point out, ambassador meetings are
They will.
important, and they
Oh, yeah.
are all right.
Can I add a
Oh,
comment?
yeah, go.
I think there's so much value to the ambassador meetings, and what it really did is helped educate us as to your vision, where you've been, where you want to go with things, and I thought it was a great meeting.
Oh, I value those meetings dearly.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, and it's great to have this back in person and yeah, like I said, now they're on my calendar. Miss Debbie is on my calendar, so I will be making an effort to not have to conflict with it going forward. How's that?
And then we'll try to get her for the retreat.
Oh, absolutely. Just let me know when I get penciled in. Yeah, absolutely. Good seeing everybody.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I wouldn't rush it because I've got a state site visit in juvenile hall in a little bit, so. we
Okay.
gotta get over it.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Good seeing
All
everybody.
right. Okay, getting back to our agenda now. We're still on page 16. Can we go to Lao? Are there any?
So Lau has an additional request, so that is going to, I think we probably should wait till we hear from, that's kind of like next on the agenda.
Oh, I was looking at, isn't?
Oh, so this here, so for, Lau, both for Lau and Center for, additionally, when policy and budget were reviewing the requests, we did not receive requests from them, so the, variance amount here is actually the, portion of the 5% COLA that would be added to their contract, so that's the variance that you see.
Yeah. I had a question for the Lao people. How many beds, does that 70, because this is in the housing arena, if I'm correct? How many beds does that?
So
represent?
again, that's not connected to, we probably should hold on that one for the actual.
Oh,
request.
okay.
Yeah.
All right, fine,
All
fine.
right.
But excuse me, I do have a question though, Tracy. So Men and Women of Purpose, request was also for additional funds for extra mentor and in that area. Would that be a budget modification at addition to that? All I see here is the average added. We get request additional funds to modify that mentoring program.
Yeah, so the additional funds for your existing mentoring program was around the tune of 51,000.
Yeah.
So that is included here.
So it's not a modification.
No, it's not, it's not, so the way that our fiscal team approached this, a lot of the requests that came in, because we were funds that were going to be expended to extend hours of your existing mentors, that it wasn't really considered a major program modification. When you think about program modification, this is like the start of a brand new project or a brand new program, or the cancellation of one, so you want a reduction in your resources. What you guys presented were mostly requests that were an expansion of what you currently have.
Can I ask another question if I may? I mean, first of all, does anybody else have questions of Lao before I go? I don't.
I think what Patrice is saying is that Lao has a different budget that we're gonna walk through in a little bit, so we're holding on the conversation for Lao.
Okay, so the overall see, I guess I'm just looking at the 500,000
So-
on this page, so.
What you have before you are
Yes.
the dollar amounts that policy and budget considered and requested to move forward. We received requests from Lao and also Center Force that will impact Health Rate 360's amount here after the fact. So these will have to change, assuming you accept those. Though some of the Lao's numbers will change, as well as Health Rate 360 number will change.
So any questions of Lao, hold those off to the next
Because
discussion.
that will be right at Horace.
Okay, then. Thank you. I'm sorry to get out of sequence. Men and Women of Purpose, I have a question for them, they're looking at an increase here of $51,635, which appears to be highly focused on client service. I have another question, and my question here is about beds again. And my question for them, and maybe you address this later, is there a role for your organization to play in the housing/additional beds arena? If so, what might that be and what would your needs be? Now, is that something we want to talk later?
So that was presented. They are asking for addition in their new program, and
Okay,
that's what we've asked them to hold over for access.
okay,
So, because it's a new program model.
excellent.
But I don't know if I want to talk about the beds that they've done before.
Well, I'll say that for later.
Okay.
The mentoring, West County Mentoring does not deal with kids situation.
Doesn't deal with that. You're
You're
working with WOW.
or whatever.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Bay Area Legal,
So what, okay.
well, does anybody else have any questions for Bay Area Legal? Okay.
What?
I thought their budget chart.
Well, no, I think, for a majority of it, it's because we still have to go through we have to go to each individual provider. So I don't know if we want to hold the question for when we actually get to that provider, or or is it pertaining to the budget itself?
I was just making reference to the
Okay.
budget because you had that as a separate page.
Okay.
Okay, but I was just gonna say, I thought they did a nice job. What about Health Light 360? Are we gonna, should I hold my questions then? Until, is there another area? Because all of these things were on your page 16, and I thought that's what we were talking about.
So, yeah, you can ask your questions about,
Well, wait a minute. Is there anybody else that has a question? I don't want to appear to be. Okay. All right, Health Right 360. You had a variance of $119,361. Your detailed line item descriptions were very good, and I thought provided the reader with a true sense of where you were going. I noticed $16,800 for 24 laptops. And my question here was, since you're going for it and updating your laptops, would you also consider updating your overall system, your server, etc.? And I just thought I would throw those items out. Yeah, go ahead, please.
Also, actually the laptop exams, those were specifically for the clients.
Yes.
And so those are laptops and a hotspot.
Okay.
That's what the price was.
All right.
You're talking like kind of electronic technology and systems, but is that what you mean?
Yes, I think, hey, you're going for it.
Laptop.
Okay, go for it. Okay. All right, particularly with excess funds. That discussion being later, and I noticed what you did here. Okay, that was fine. Thank you. Oh, pardon me. I think there was one other one here. Health Right 360 and Center Force. I think you spelled out that there was $60,000 for additional beds in your proposal. And my question was, do you need more? Based on beds to service individuals who are returning to society. And I notice you'll see a theme on talking about beds, because if we're going to bring people back, you sure as heck better have a place for them to go. So by George, God bless you on 5, but it's really 5 enough.
So Center Force is one of the other budgets that we didn't get to discuss. So them and Lau, we're gonna go through in detail and review their budget, because policy and budget didn't get that. That's why it's not included in this.
Yeah. Okay, well, I don't believe when I read the Center Force, okay, we'll wait till we get to that portion.
One question, Patrice, on Health Rate 360, their budget allocation request is for 119, and that's the total variance, but does that mean that they're not getting the 5% as well? Because it should be a little bit larger than the budget request.
All right, I'll check in with this about.
Okay.
that.
Thank you for that. I'll get you a little more. Thank you for that.
Yeah, Justin is awesome.
Okay, are we just about done here? I have, one final. I'm sorry, but hey, what is it? You send us 70 pages, well, by George, Somebody better read it. So, okay. Maybe as a final comment here, what have we done currently and what's on the horizon for accountability? You know, these are county funds and all of us here are dead lame taxpayers. So what are we doing to say, okay, Crawford's group gets $1 million and he is supposed to service a certain clientele. Well, how are you measuring what am I doing? Do we have that in the horizon? Are we currently doing that for accountability? You know, for example, am I supposed to service people that are coming out of the correctional system? So I'm supposed to service hypothetically 20 people a doggone month. Do we have a roster? So we have the names of those 20 and we are reporting who was doing what, where and when? Because any group, my group's getting money, but by George, I should be accountable. So I'm asking that question. Are we doing that? If not, no problem. But by George,
So the answer is yes. All of the contractors, they all can speak to it. They submit quarterly information, was it twice a year? We also have our ORJ team that's been meeting with a few contractors, one-to-one to go over the reports that they submitted. They actually have another one coming up pretty soon. You all get notifications soon. Again, on the reporting of the information that they have, on the delivery of their service. There's also a shared data system, which is called SAFE, that our office administers, that all contractors are required to input information in regarding their service to their clients that are being funded through these contracts.
and do we do a variance analysis of that system?
We're in the works to do some analysis,
Okay.
working on beefing up our team some more so we can be able to do that. But for now, we really want to get to the place where there's quality assurance in terms of data entry and collection. So we have a good, robust data set, if you will, to do that kind of analysis.
Thank you. And I'll be quiet, and I'm so sorry to take up so much time with my questions, but.
So now I just want to piggyback off of your question because it was a good point. So I think you pretty much answered it. There are changes that are coming, right? Or once the RJ's team can get more staff to be able to look at those. Now, when RJ is fully staffed, will the current systems be looked at for, I guess, more value to just see if there's any loopholes, the value of information that's being reported, you know.
Yeah, in the past, ORJ has conducted what was called a community, community report that detailed, and even prior to that, the county had contracted with RDA to essentially do an analysis of how AB 109 public realignment was being implemented here in the county. We did take a pause on that once I came into ORJ, one, because we needed to increase our staffing, and two, we actually wanted to honor sort of the anniversary of AB 109 over the course of 10 years. It's been in effect, and we really wanted to spend a lot of our time looking into the trends as it relates to this population that's being served. That information, getting a sense of our actual population and its various characteristics and how they flow through the justice system will then be a great match within the service data and information that we're looking to build up as well. So more to come. That's what I can tell you for now. But we are looking at a couple of different platforms that will allow for us to do more automatic analytics so that we can push information out a little faster.
I have one more, I promise. I'm like Crawford right now. And this just comes from our ambassador meetings, and I really do love our, we got a lot of feedback. And one of the feedbacks that we received was outcomes within the county of looking at CBO outcomes. And I know there's my own previous experience of being a CBO, understanding the different outcomes of each is different. And I think there's a lack of understanding in reference to CBOs on what those measurables are. And will that be looked at on what RJ is looking for from out, what an outcome is and how that's defined and how an individual comes to that and conclusion to kind of answer this question. Is that data, what you just said, if it's correct, are we meeting the proper people? Do we actually help that person? That's the feedback that we received from our ambassador meetings that we had. It's time to really look at the data. We know it's been reported. We know that everyone's doing a good job, but when are we going to validate if that information is actually correct and if the individuals are being met? Because although these reports are being submitted, saying that they are, we still have a large number of people that say that they're not being their needs met. So how do we kind of figure out why that isn't met?
I think almost every ambassador meeting was supportive of the good work that's being done here,
Yes.
but also that we kind of see people drinking out of a fire hose, and we'd love to see some resources go toward your work. Just so you know that.
Yes.
And that
It's for you.
every board of supervisor got to hear that.
Yes.
So.
That's it. We can, before we move to the next page to move on, any other questions from anybody? No? Hearing none, I can't see everyone on Zoom, so I'm assuming no. Okay, so, moving on to the next page, okay, we can go to each one, as we mentioned, a few times, we've already met with some of the providers of Justin and ourselves, but I know that there's questions, so we'll just go through each page for the sake of time and see if there's questions, if you haven't had a chance to read it, if you have someone here. The first one that we have here, I don't like to use that one, Rubicon, that's on page 17. I'm not sure if you asked for the questions or if anybody else has any additional questions for Rubicon? From the committee? No? From? Any on Zoom? So can I ask the questions as I go through each one, and if there's no questions, am I okay to say, do the board approve of this report? I gotta wait to the end for all of them.
It's up to you all, because you also have to consider, Center Force and Laos
Right.
requests as well, so you can either decide, to vote now on the recommended request minus, Center Force and, minus Health Right 360 and Lao, and then go into discussing theirs, or you can hold off on approving all of these and wait till you hear from Lao and, Center Force, and then decide if you want to move all of them together and take one vote.
Okay, me and my buddy, we agree all of them. So we'll review them all first, and then.
One point of clarification
Sure.
too, Patrice, so like with those corrections that need to be made on this, how are we able to vote without those being done?
You can, whatever changes you want to see made to this, you can state that in the motion, or just say, vote to approve this with the recommended changes that were discussed today.
Thank you. So I think we have those.
Okay, awesome, thank you. Okay, so, if there's no questions for, what Rubicon proposed, the next one is, Men and Women of Purpose. And we have Iris and Frank here, if there's any questions for them, and I believe you, Iris said that you had a few points you wanted to bring up.
No, hello, everyone. I'm Mitchell, Men and Women of Purpose. So we're talking about the addition to the mentoring program, right?
Yeah.
So we're looking to expand our hours for our mentors. Right now, what we're receiving is, and the amount of money is only enough to provide 3 mentors for 18 hours a month. So I don't know how this would really spend the necessary time needed to build a relationship with all the people that we encounter inside and outside with 18 hours. And we're also pushing to extend mentor person, Spanish speaking. He was in my office yesterday. He worked as a volunteer with us, and he is really excited about the opportunity of not being a volunteer anymore, how about that? Okay. So, yeah, we know how that works in this economy, right? So that's pretty much the basics of what we're trying to do with our mentoring program. Frank, the mentor director.
When one person speak at a time, but that's exactly what we're trying to do, is just try to expand, seeing a big need with the Spanish speaking population. And it's really ironic that it was requested that people get Spanish speaking people, because we have one on board, and it's really exciting, and we're just trying to retain. Those needs to be met.
And that is a serious area, because when he goes into the jail with us, he has a waiting list. He has a waiting list of people that he's trying to translate the services needs to us. And that's difficult to do. And, you know, I don't speak Spanish, so I'm really happy that we're looking at expanding that service to those people. Custody and out of custody through our mentoring service.
I have a question. I hate this. Okay, by the way, I thought that was well written. And you really laid out where you were going. And my question is, did you go far enough? And my question is based on the needs that we have for individuals that are in the system. And our concern is to reduce recidivism. It's almost like, let's get them in kindergarten and don't wait till high school. So therefore, if we double that amount, could you use it adequately under budget constraints and provide service?
That's the most definite. It is really, you asked me a question, so I got to speak my heart in this situation. West County mentoring has been underfunded. I mean, we're in the jail, out of jail. We're working with people from all parts of the county. We're building relationships of trust based on the needs of the individual, and we're listening with not just our head, with our hearts as well. It's been a difficult task to complete that job, the funding that we get. We would love to be able to extend that. This is why we're proposing an extension to the inside, outside. So I won't make it all about this, but this is the missing pieces to that. It's been hard enough to get this process moving in this direction for us. Ask me a question. For us, it's been difficult. We've been here since the very beginning, 2011, in formulating, and we're still struggling to be adequately funded to be the first. We're the first responders to these people in jail. That relationship starts in jail, and we've been struggling with that process, with the funding that we receive. Yes, we can spend it on any restraints you have or any ideas you have. We've been motivated from the beginning to complete this. So, yeah. No, I'm fine. I don't want to leave. This is his responsibility. So,
Yeah,
I have a
question.
question. So I know that you said that you're looking to hire a male for the mentor. If providing the additional funds, would you have an opportunity to hire a female to be able to connect with the lady to provide the same services that you're offering the males?
yeah, and that's been another issue that just this year we were given the contract to deal with the women inside the jail who have been greatly overlooked as far as receiving services. So we made our best attempt with this prior to this was $115,000 a year budget. Make one person making that a year. You want to fund an agency with that. We have the same bills that everyone else has. So yes, I would definitely love to be able to offer a lot more support to the women. I believe that they've been overlooked and underfunded in that area from the beginning.
I'd like to add that we do a lot of volunteers, right? And get a lot of exciting people. We get people from Spirit, we get a lot of different folks. There's some people that work for us now on most of the agencies that have actually volunteered before they became employees. And we're really excited about the opportunity to just put it out there if they're interested, to be able to, be able to get some kind of stipend or something. Kind of hard to attend.
I have another question. We recently had a presentation, from someone in the Hispanic community. And one of the things on the slideshow was they don't have the tools and resources necessary. And they put emphasis on when they're going to court, that they're responding with C, yes, and they don't understand. And as a result of them not understanding, their children have physically been removed from them. And so outside of being able to go inside of West County and the other jails, would there be someone to assist them when they're attending courts and other things where there is no resources based on the presentation that we were provided?
Yeah, please.
Okay.
We worked in similar areas like that with the Superior Court a while back where we, were court mentors. And so the court gives the opportunity to the mentor to speak on things that may not have been translated by the individual in custody or dealing with a court matter. So we would love to expand our opportunity, but like I said, we've been locked in the funding source of $110,000 a year. And so there it is.
So one of the questions that I have, because I hear you say, my that was to our last meeting, is do you, I don't want to say the word feel, but I know that we're looking at all the programs, and I know our questions are going from trying to figure out what's not there, what's not there, what's the gaps. And I guess where I'm hung up, but not just with you, but all of our programs in the whole is identifying what do we already have. What is in place? What is not working? Do we need to expand? Is there more collaboration within services before we build out and build new? So, or is what's already being funded don't work, and then we have to switch it over to someone else to make it work? So I think we have to take a step back and look, because so many of our programs are either doing or touching on what's doing or no longer doing or underfunded to do, and look at exactly what is there. Because if you ask, there are some programs that's able to do exactly what he said that's missing, right? And it goes back to your question the first time. Well, they're funded to do so, but why is there still a need? So we need to look and figure out what's here before we have to really figure it out, and dig deep into all of these programs, because there is someone that goes into the courts there, are funded to do so, but yet you have programs that's going into the jail that's touching folks, and they're saying, no, I'm not getting that service. So why is that? So that was one of the things that we left out, is really looking, when we break this down in the work groups, to really dig, and I encourage for some of the other committees to join and get your feedback as well as committee members, so we can now with these work groups really dig into what you're asking, to say, yes, maybe more funding needs to go here or there, and be able to provide those services, because you're right, if they're gonna bring in that program, in fact, they're already in. Mm-hmm. And then he's coming to do that too. So what are they doing? What is comparing to what they're saying they're doing to what Irene and them are doing? How does that, we have to figure this out, because they've already funded someone to go in and do that. So how does that hinder what another person is trying to do? And is it really clearing of that? Is it clearing that population, helping with that population? Do we need more, right? Because that program has already been pushed in there. They're in there now. They're not talking to the women, but the men they are.
The rationale behind moving these budgets forward was that the majority of the funding is either going directly to FTE, to staff,
right,
or it's going to resources that are given to people who are in this population. And so I think our work over the next 4 months, the $15 million, will really kind of paint this picture that you guys are starting to pull apart, of like, where are these gaps and how are they being filled, or why is this service not being provided when it's being said it's being provided, right? But I think today's conversation is really about where are the gaps that our providers have identified year on year for programming that is already going on.
Thank you, but I think we ought to be able to walk and chew gum at the same time. And let's not get too hung up on the paralysis of analysis. I think we ought to double what they've requested. And not only am I basing it on what I've read here, but I've had the opportunity in talking with other county agencies, people at the jail, et cetera, as to what's needed. This lady and I have had that opportunity sidebar. Yes, we need to continue to evaluate, excuse me, and yes, we want to see what is working and what is not, but I'm talking about a need right now for current people that are in the system. Let's see what we can do for women. I think we need to double it. I've made my case and we'll see when we vote.
So.
We'll
Well,
probably have
it's
to
a big-
break down the individual requests or
Yeah.
changes and vote on them individually and then.
And I know and excuse me, Justin and Nicole, I know
Well, I'm just trying to
I'm
figure
giving
out what
out-
you're doubling.
well, they wanted 51,000, I think it should be 102,000,
And you base that off of what?
based on this and the need.
So there's nothing against them.
Yeah.
So one of the key things that we're striding on here
Yeah.
is we want data,
Oh,
right? So I'm not, again, not again,
Yeah.
I mean, if anyone, if you said that, I would ask you the same question. So
Yeah.
you're basing the doubling of something
on data and we
Which
have
data?
had,
which data?
when you say which data, okay, you've got data right here that you've approved, and they said it's not enough.
I mean, data that we captured in reference to our research to define that, right?
Oh,
So
okay,
you're asking to double mentorship for the Spanish speaking individuals, for the women, right? Which I know,
Yes.
again, you can source them,
Yeah,
a question
Yes,
from a board perspective. You're asking me to do that for one particular program.
yes.
Where's the data? That goes back to what we're all saying. Again, nothing against them. Right now, our
Yeah.
goal is to do exactly what Justin said. Later on is to dig down and figure out that. But another key thing that sticks out to me is they only have a year to spend this, right? So I
Yeah.
believe that majority of the folks did their budgeting to
Yeah.
ensure that they can spend down on what they have and what they need to continue. So then if we double that, can they spend that down within their next year?
And he just answered that question and said yes.
Without a doubt. We're actually spending money for other contracts to offset with.
I guess
Money with.
A follow-up question then would be, why wasn't the request larger? If you're saying that, so I'm trying to be respectful.
I can answer that.
Yeah,
I can answer that, because we've been here since the beginning. West County mentoring and mentoring overall has been looked at as something that's not as valuable as these other resources. But West County mentoring is the relationship. To build a relationship with you, I can't just go talk to you one time. I have to spend time with you in order to build that relationship. That time is dollars in mentoring hours that we've been funding other ways, but not at all. So yes, the answer is yes.
Can I reiterate or maybe reform my question? So you had an offer, you presented a proposal to us to expand funding, right?
We can, if given the opportunity and have the time, yes, we can resubmit that. But again, we have struggled in the past with getting funding and additional funding for West County mentoring. So what was to make me think that this was gonna be any different when it's been a struggle for 13 years?
Okay.
Thank you. Scott, you look.
Well, I guess for a person that's not in Programs and Services Committee and not on the Budget Committee, a lot of this and this information is kind of the first time I'm hearing it. And if I'm not mistaken, the CCP is going to be taking this information pretty quickly, right? And relying on it. It seems to me from the totality of the Community Advisory Board, going forward, it may be helpful to have more knowledge and exchange and discourse on this exact subject. Because hearing what you're saying makes a lot of sense to me, but whew, we're at the finish line almost, aren't we? So this is probably a difficult time integrating. And it's not a fault matter, no one's to blame, but I'm just thinking from this group being of service, it may be helpful for us to grapple with this even more so as a full cab, because I feel a little ignorant on some of the subjects. Maybe that's some of my fault, but I think too, there's been divisions of labor and some firewalls and I wish I knew a little more at this point. That's all I'm saying.
And just to give a little bit of history too, each service area, it's unfortunate that it's listed as contracts. In the past, they were listed by service areas. So there was peer mentoring for West County, the Network System of Services, the West County Reentry Resource Center, employment services, on and on. And CCP, by way of CAB's recommendations, has set what those allocated amounts would be for each of those service areas to then be RFP'd out. So all of the providers here today are, they're finishing out their 3-year contract term, right? So you're only seeing a 1-year allocation of that 3-year contract.
Got it.
So if it is of interest to the CAB to see increases in specific service areas, we want to keep distinction here. Next, by the end of next fiscal year, or before the next fiscal year, we'll be going into a new RFP cycle to then RFP out for the 3-year contract cycle. So maybe at that point, it might be a great time to then discuss where you might want to see increases in any of these service areas. But just keep in mind that you will want to bring forward recommendations that would substantiate where you see the need for increasing resources for that service area, not to conflate it with necessarily a specific contractor, because that's where things can get wonky.
And I think additional context that you shared with me last week is that this is one of the first times that we're asking providers to bring forth budgets to increase their annual allocation. So in the past, it's just been a flat baseline.
Well, CAB has in the past decided that they wanted 3-year COLA increases for each contract year. The last 2 years, CAB has decided just to have the status quo request, which was basically no change. This is the year where folks have said, no, we want to open it up to hear requests from the providers, given that they're identifying gaps in needs, but through the survey and through their presentation.
Thank you for explaining that, Teresa. Yeah, it wasn't that I had a choice to ask, is what was offered. Yeah.
I just want to make a comment, because I'm at West County Women every week. Every Tuesday, I'm there. I would love for some help. And the women, they get shorted on every hand, even as far as exercise activity, because they're in that building 4 and they don't believe. They have a little play area, but it's nothing to play with. You know, they were saying things how they don't get to work in the garden, the men work in the garden or work in the kitchen. They don't get to leave. And that causes a lot of stress and anxiety. And as one person going in there meeting with women, it's hard because I try to fill the needs, but it's hard. Because it's so many. No, I need to help. I would like to ask you, because I love the work that you do for with additional funding around the women, what will it help you accomplish? Because I know there's a lot that you want to do that you can't do. Yeah, it would, you know, to actually to provide a resource outside of an ID voucher. You know, when they get out, when we need stuff, we need toiletries. To be able to have a purse with some goodies in there that you could use, you know, for your hygiene. You know, we need that.
It's part of the dignity issue.
Yeah, it makes you feel better. And along with that, maybe, you know, because they need a place to go. I'll need a place to stay. Everybody don't have a place to stay. That's just the hardest thing when you can't set up housing for someone. So I'm gonna come with a hard question. Okay, and then not for y'all, but this is, maybe this is the first time me and him agree and disagree. And the reason why I agree and disagree, again, not program wide, because I've been joining a lot of different meetings to see what's going on in the county outside of reentry. And one of the things that we're trying to, I don't say focus ourselves on is really again, not duplication. So I just left a call today. So it goes back to collaboration, right? So I just left a call today. And it's not tied to reentry at all. It's just homeless. So there's a program that's doing just that. And it's how do we bring all this together where we have a silo, we have the reentry programs, and then you have the work with homeless that's doing that, but they're still touching your population. So it's like we're almost spending the money, but I agree that you guys do the additional, but then you look at there's money out there being placed for programming to do exactly what you just said, touch on women. So is there a way of collaboration that we need to do? And expand more just staffing to be able to do that, or because that's one of my biggest things with the county as a whole, not just with reentry, just learning, going to all these different meetings where there's different sectors, but we're touching the same person. So then we're wasting money and we're not coming to a resolution. There is no outcome. The numbers are still high. People are still going back into jail. So giving out more money doesn't solve it. How do we figure out the programs that we're funding? Is it working? Do we got to collaborate? Should there be more linkage to make things work? Because we're coming back. I agree. I would love to give everybody thousands. I want some money. But, but in reality, the point is I'm just hung up on that. I just, my personal, now speaking personal, is I'm tired. I want to see a resolution now and not just handing it out. What can we do? Why is there 20,000 programs doing it, the same thing, but yet your ladies don't have it? So how do we bridge that gap? And that's something that I want to come to a conclusion. I do think you need. I think it's great they can walk out. You can say, I'm waiting here with a bag. But then there's someone else in the county that's not reentry saying, I'm waiting within the West County with a bag. And she has bags, but it's not reentry, it's homeless as a whole.
May I add, just to what you were speaking, we have female reentry coaches that are bilingual. We do provide transportation from the local detention facility to our office. And we also provide welcome home care packages and they're based and we do inside. They include pads and tampons also. If our members express hardship with the reentry, we're able to provide gift cards and purchases. Limited products.
You have a card?
I do. And I tell
Hey, Nicole, can I get a time check?
Oh, yeah, time, what time is it? Okay, so we can, yes.
We have two proposals to hear as well.
So we can go ahead and, if you're, I appreciate all the information that you all give and the hard work that you all do. And again, we encourage you all to come to our work groups.
Join us.
Join us for these deep conversations. Okay, so moving on for the second time, because I do want to give Senator Person Loud the opportunity to submit what they've submitted. The next one, can I hold off on health right until we get the Center first? Okay. We have the Reentry Success Center proposal. Is there any questions about that? And that's, I'm sorry, that's on page
25 through 27.
Okay, I have
24 through 27.
Okay.
One thing to note here, which I thought was really helpful, is that this is a county-owned building. And so any of these these changes that would happen is not owned by the provider, it's owned by the county. So I just think that's something very important to flag as we make this.
Can you break down, because you're going to deal with that with the budget, on how it's, because there's two different separations on what they're asking for, right? One is.
Yeah, so the 30K, which is the events and, sorry.
Hiking kits.
Yes, we've included that as part of their baseline, so that 30K is under the baseline column. The modification column for the 150,000 is all having to do with their capital.
And one other thing to flag on this is the capital improvement is a one-time cost.
Yeah.
And all of these other requests are going to be ongoing as a budget modification that carries forward into future years.
Any questions from the board? Anything from the? No? I think that's. Oh, then we have Bay Area Legal, right? Did I skip over?
Yes, and I just seen it. Is it page 20?
Page 20. Oh, yeah, page 20.
Oh, there's no narrative, it's just the budget.
They put the,
They did.
at the bottom,
Oh, at the bottom, great, thank you.
page 20. There any questions regarding Bay Area legal? None? Okay, so we can move forward to our two presenters. What do we have first?
Lau.
Right?
Yeah.
What page?
Lau is on page 28. And the representative, correct? This, the next two requests have not been seen by Budget and Policy Subcommittee. So we would all be voting on it collectively.
And just to also add more context, so you will be hearing about Lau's request, which I believe is an increase of about 500,000 specifically for their subsidized housing line. And they can give more context to that. And then we're hearing from Centerforce, but it's not in relation to their family reunification contract, right? Which is a line item that in the budget form, that's where you won't see a significant increase. They are sharing recommendations or a request of increase of resources that will affect their gender responsive subcontract with Health Right 360 with the network. So the network does subcontract with a few agencies, one of which is Centerforce, who then provides gender management services. So their request is coming with changing or increasing that budget and that subcontract, and then Health Right 360 submitted information to say that they want to include it in their budget request. Yes. And we have a Health Right representative who can speak to that.
Okay.
I'm gonna go up there so everyone know how to turn around. Good morning, everyone. My name is my class for Lao family. So I'm here to present to you all the request that we'll be asking for. The reason is we have a lot of individuals that coming into our door and seeking for services. Our original goal is only 50 individuals that we're gonna house. However, as of today, we're actually serving 207. The original goal to serve this individual, 50 individuals, for the whole subsidy of 12 months in their housing. Because of the great work that Belinda and her team actually be able to working very close with individuals and be able to help them employment very fast, going on with financial coaching and saving. They actually exit out into permanent housing faster than what the original plan. So instead of 12 months, many of them be able to exit out into permanent housing within 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. And yes, there are some up to 12 months, or there are some that actually more than 12 months, depends on individual case by case. So because of that fact, we actually enroll over enrollment and over serving individuals. Therefore, we need a support for additional funding so that we can continue to serve more individuals in the campus. Question? Yes.
So you're saying that your original budget was for 50 beds and you served a total of 279. And correct me if I'm reading this wrong, you're asking for a total of 5 more beds?
So, no, we're not asking
Okay.
for 5 more beds, but we're asking for a set of dollar amount with the original, and that we're gonna be an average that we're gonna be asking people out into permanent housing, like 6, 7 months, 9 months at most. That's what we're aiming for. And Patrice, correct me if I'm wrong, we're not only asking for next year funding to be increased, but also the existing contract that what we already almost exhausted all the funding already. So we're also asking for the current contract to be increased as well on top of this 500.
So I think this budget presented to you is only for next year, what we're asking for. So we're also asking for additional fund for the, for the current contract as well.
Is that for $500,000 as well?
The 500,000 for the existing contract that we're asking for, and then on top of that whole budget of what we submitted, we're actually asking for amend that for the next year contract.
And these are all AB 109.
It's all AB 109 individuals, home-based individuals.
I have a question, maybe going back to the beds, $500,000. What is that gonna entail? You know, for example, beds. You need can you give us some maybe clue as to how many additional beds that you'll be able to provide?
So I don't have the figures of us over here, but based on the figures of what I have, we're gonna be anticipate to have another 50 beds.
So-
It's hard to counting bed, if
So
you counting
$10,000
bed
per
per
bed.
night or per night per participant, then we actually have a lot more beds. If you counting like bed per night per participant, then for us, we count per participant with the whole consistent month that we pay for the rent. So the average rent is about 1,200. Well, Donald Hassan, maybe you all know that he one of the, best landlords in the county. He actually one is our very first landlord that we're working with, and he actually be able to negotiate that the price down is way below market price, that he'd be able to work with us to be able to support the participants as well. So.
And I had another question. Oh, go ahead, lady.
Is that for is that for permanent housing, or how much of this cover the sober living part of it? What separates, so I know that there's different.
The way that,
So,
the way that we're placing our participant into housing is we negotiate with the landlord at the very beginning. We subsidize the rent at the beginning, and we hopeful that this individual housing is gonna be continued on to become their permanent housing, so that they don't have to move it again. But if there is a case that we only be able to put it into temporary transitional housing, then, when the term is up, we move them into permanent housing. But in most scenarios, we're trying to negotiate with the landlord at the very beginning that we intend to help them to stay there at the permanent housing.
I had a question, and the question is, do you provide services for other counties other than Contra Costa?
Yes, we do. We have housing subsidized transitional housing in Alameda County as well as Sacramento County.
And then my question then, to kind of piggyback on that, how do you separate the funds that are used for Contra Costa County versus the funds that you're servicing other counties? How do you
Absolutely.
make that line of demarcation?
Yes, we break it down by the books of each contract. So for our family overall, we have about 65 plus contracts, and each of our contracts have a standalone contract line items. And the bookkeeping and the track record of it is going by expenditures. And we do have single audit.
so now I'm sorry, was somebody else?
It was me, but you can go.
So now I'm really just intrigued on the program model. So initially, the model that you're used is not to place anybody into SLE. So the goal is for an individual to go directly into some type of permanent placement. So what kind of model is that? Are they signing a lease? Is it property that you sublease? Is it or this is now their place that they're getting into?
So for Contra Costa County, we do separate, a bit different in Alameda County and Sacramento County, that what we run with this type 8109 services. So for Contra Costa County, we actually have the participant on the list themselves, and we endorse it when we first subsidize. So during the time that we subsidize the rental, so we're gonna say like 6 months for now until the participant be ready on their own. Then we, our family, endorse it through the participant. So the lessee is the participant and the landlord. The Lau family is the one who's gonna be paying rent directly to the landlord. In Alameda County, we do a bit different, because we own the properties of 285 units, and every single one that we place in there, they don't have to pay for it, and that's different.
That's something you think that you'll want to do in Contra Costa County?
We originally intend to do that, at the very first contract of what Lao family have with OIJ, we were told that we can't do that. So, that's the reason why we go with this route, that going directly, working with local landlords and doing that. But if we be able to do the same model that what we do with Contra Costa County, we would love to do that, because it's actually provide a lot of, on-site support, everything that we can bring on-site, like coaching and mentoring, personal hygiene, life skill coaching for the first 3 months when they, how to groom themselves, how to taking care of their homes, how to inspect their home, how to do their laundry, this and that. So the life skill is there. When we own the property, and we basically provide 24-hour, 24/7 on-site support services for the individuals, it's gonna be a lot different than the models that what we have here. And Patrice were there, when you and your team were there, visit our care campus in Oakland. Yeah, so, that campus is really nice.
I have one last question, I promise. I think, so if this money is not awarded to you, how would it affect and your
We basically have to be paused on all the participants that we currently serve. So basically, we have to pause, not to enroll any more individuals, because we're already in the line of gonna be like, negative on our subsidized housing. The service is still gonna be there, but the housing support is not gonna be there. Because if you see all this funding that what we're asking for, there's really 100% go directly to subsidized.
I'm sorry, explain that again. So you said the subsidized won't be there, but the setting, I'm sorry, the last.
I said the subsidized housing money that we're asking for is 100% go directly to the participants directly subsidized. So.
Allowed as more than housing, and so they're allowed as more than housing, so their other services would still be available, but there wouldn't be any beds available.
Right, there won't be any, and would that be the permanent beds or cause I know there's the complete beds and the permanent bed or the permanent housing, so is it just across the board, there'll be nothing? Questions I have. No budget questions, you my budget guys, that's not good.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. Hi, my name is Mimi. I'm with the Lao Family Community Development. I'm a program manager overseeing the housing program. I just want to address the question you asked earlier. How does it affect if we don't get funded? So I just wanted to, we have to pause the service since October for the new enrollment because we are run out of the budget. So up to date, we have a 58 participant there on the waiting list right now. They are, so it's going to be really affect us on continue serving those the population. Just want to add on to that, sorry.
You gave me another question now, so there's 58 people on the waiting, so that not go back to Crawford, I'm gonna be a Crawford now, was there more that was needed, meaning since there's 58 people on the waiting list, and you're asking for this funding, is that gonna deplete majority of it? Cause it has to, now you have to enroll your waiting list, so how would that affect you?
So.
I mean, it's a positive and a negative, right? You'll get the money, the 58 people.
So then this 58 people will be served if the budget is approved on top of the existing current contract that we're asking for the additional fund. Then this 58 will be immediately enrolled. As soon as we say, okay, your current year budget is approved for additional requests, then we can additional serving that.
Okay. And this is across all 3 counties or just West County?
Yeah.
Okay. Now I don't have any more.
Keep going.
Just to get a question.
No, I'm good.
I appreciate you for presenting and providing this information. Nice to see you in person now. Hi, Mimi.
Hi.
I don't have any additional questions. Does anybody else have any questions for the sake of time? Public comment?
Hi, I'd like to make a comment. I'm Wanda. I'm also with Lao Family.
It's been a great success working, with, reentry, game plans for success. Working with Nicole and Jana going into the, jails and getting those clients right there, as they walk out, so to speak. They have some place to go and we're always there. So that's been, helpful. I would like to reach out to the women and go into the jail as well for the women and do the same thing and offer the same opportunity of service.
And I would like to add on this is that I just want to let you know, Your Honor, so we are all these, the client that enroll, they receive the transitional housing. Once they move out to the permanent housing, we also provide them IDA, which is when they're in the program, they do the IDA saving, individual development account, and then we match them, whatever they save, and then we match them the $1,000. And then also when they move out to the permanent housing, we give them the first month, last month, and security deposit. So for the secure their housing, so yes. And then 3 type of housing that we placing, I hear that, Honor, you asked earlier the question subleasing. Yes, we do also sublease the housing contract for the family reunification, because we believe that sometimes our client, they go back, with the family, with the girlfriend, with the kids, or with the family, with the parents. So those are also we doing in the family, replacing in the family reunification in housing with the sublease, and also they move out of the individual on their own. It depends on the case by case with their income. So yes. And then we also do the roommate, if that's what they wanted to, move. So yeah, just want to add on to that. Thank you.
One other thing to add to, working with, game plans for success going into the jails, we have a, 37 people so far that went from the county straight into our program, get housed and transitional into permanent housing. So it is.
So I have a question. In the event that you had the space vacant, how does that process work when they're actually released from jail? Are you there to pick them up?
We would like to implement that service there to pick them up. Right now, I know there's been some talk about transportation. We would like to add additional funds for that, maybe. Right now, when they get out of jail, they come to us because Game Plans for Success has already made that contact, and we've made that contact when they get out of jail. But then you have to come into our program. And majority of the time, like I said, we've already have their cases, we already know about them because I go into the jails doing the workshop. So when they come out, a lot of the paperwork is already done. And we're just waiting for them to come in. And because working with Nicole and Jenna, they have that time to come straight to Lao when they do get out. Unfortunately, it's not always the transportation for them. We would like the transportation service, if we could directly take them from the county program straight to Lao. Sometimes it takes them a couple of days to get there, but because that relationship is already established, they come within 3 days, we see them.
So I actually would prefer, if our partner already provide those services, we'd rather not to duplicate the services, but enhance the service together through our partners, like Men of Valor, that been already doing that. And I'd rather us, Lao family, not to duplicating the services, because we need to be leveraging the resource to enhance the service of what we do. And that way, we work closer with our partners, and in a way that we'll be able to serve the community better as a whole. So.
And just to add, Jana is on there as well. That's kind of like, that's what we do. So right now, anyone in West County, we use it, we work with RSC for transportation.
Yeah.
So, and I would also work with them a purpose other than I'm funded for it. I was going to forget you, Jay. Burning down my. So we do exactly what she said right now, and Jana's on the line if she wants to add more to it, but we pretty much collaborate with partners to do great work over to that. Okay. So it goes back to what I said earlier, it's collaboration versus duplicating.
Question for now. Since you have a waiting list of 58 with the 500,000, you all will get capacity, so we all not be accepting referrals for the remainder of the fiscal year?
Not till the remaining of the fiscal year, but this additional fund will be able to for the next fiscal year.
Question. So this population that we're talking about right now, are the AD 109 or the entry people? It's AD 109.
AD 109.
Yeah, so what about the reentry people? It's not available. So
Orlando?
if I'm not lucky enough.
Well, because our funding is really
Yeah.
AB 109 funding, so that's our priority.
Right.
That's our priority, but if there is any slot available, of course, we, with permission, with approval, we always doing that. So yes, AB 109 is our priority because this funding restriction.
But if I may speak also to that wait list, there's people who fall off by now because they have been on that wait list. There's some things that, their life may have changed a little bit, so we are able to offer those reentry positions to them, people that don't come in for that wait list. We've had a wait list for last time.
Yeah, it's in October, at the beginning of October. But just to, add on to that, even though they're on wait list, they not be able to house, we not be able to subsidize the housing for them, but they still receiving other services through us. So, we still keep track and still engage and working with them in different way. And hopefully by the time that we be able to kind of like, helping them to, okay, we ready to house you now. They already prior housing and they already with some through the employment income that we got already. So we hope that we be able to help them in different ways. So we still serving them, helping them, not saying, without the list, no, we still continue to engage, participate with them to ensure that they be able to house. Either through our support services and through our subsidized housing, or they be able to, remain with other people through their own income.
Thank you so much. And just doing a quick time check, I want to be able to, for a lot of time. We may go over a little bit, so I just want to throw that out there if anyone is unable to stay, because I do not want to go rush them to their presentation and give them time to hear them. We got to hear from Michael as well, and then we have to still vote. So, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for the information. And we will go ahead and move forward. If there's questions, please. And we're going to go move forward to the Senate. And we have, are you going to speak or just?
Oh, Michael,
Okay.
would you like for me to? So I'm Cynthia Zavala, Program Manager with Center Force. And the program that we're talking about today is the gender specific partnership with Health Right 360. We're asking for additional funds of $60,000 for 5 beds, 5 earmarked. Specifically, this is the first time I've done this, so.
Doing great.
Earmarked for Center Force participants, the women that are coming out, that are AB 109, for 5 transitional beds for the next year. To provide housing for these women for up to 6 months. And so that is at $1,000 a month for a total of 60 months. We all know that the women that Annette is case managing are women that are substance abuse. That's working with them around. And so it's really important that once they get out and they start to get stable and they're starting to stay clean, that they have a stable house. And so we're looking for sober living, some funds for sober living or transitional house that's safe. That pretty much is what we're asking. And Michael, do you have anything that you want to add to?
Yeah, I'd just like to add, just again, thank you for the consideration of the subcommittee moving this forward to the full cab. And that there's just been a slight adjustment to our ask. And that it actually includes this 60,000. So we kind of adjusted it. The fact that Center Force is our subcontractor, and so that 60,000 is basically going to be on their books, but they're our subcontractor. And as I said in the subcommittee, I'm not a math whiz, but I can prorate with the best of them. The number 60,000, we kind of feel like it's best bang for the buck, and it's kind of what we're kind of doing right now with the going rate of it being, when we say 5 beds, that means basically if 5 beds were full for the whole month. And so that's what that number is. So of course, you know, depending on population and occupancy, and then also there's a little wiggle room for registration fees or when you first move into the house. And that is it.
So this would just be, so pretty much it'll be an add-on to what you have, so you guys shouldn't be focusing on the men, and then they'll be focusing on the women.
Yeah, so this, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So yeah, so that would just be earmarked basically for them as far as us trying to work with women that are relevant.
And I love what I'm just waiting girl, but I'm gonna speak up for him this time. Why not increase? Why just 5? Why not 10?
Because I'm gonna steal somebody else's statements from earlier in this meeting, is that, again, we are looking at a year with something that we could actually see that we're actually utilizing all that is, you know, for 1 year. And we probably will be back at the end of this 3 year, you know, when the RFP and everything comes up, or maybe being here at a CAB meeting advocating, as Trees talked about earlier, is that just maybe increase in certain areas of where the reentry goes.
Value of dollars spent on sober living for AB 109.
That's a great question. No, not across the board, because so there's obviously the housing community program, which would be allowed. Then there's behavioral health that has their recovery residences. And I'm not sure if there's any other county agency that has set aside resources for housing, but.
Are you providing sober living?
That's part of it as well. So now housing, basically have different locations, different landlords that we're working with.
Yeah.
And some facility is self-looking.
You know, like what the percentage of that is?
Well, I know we've been working with Center Forts with a lot of her sober living. I would say within the AB 109, probably about 65%. It's pretty high.
That's interesting to look at. I think this is great. I think I would just encourage you to come back next year, and if this is successful and there's an increased need, to document it and share it.
I have a question. I'm gonna keep pushing. So it goes back to women. I know it's the second time. It just goes back to listening to the women that actually work with the women. And I know that the number is based off of the work that you guys are already done. But it's one man, right? So is there a possibility that the women need more? Yeah. So again, it's 5. And it's a number cruncher. I'm asking, can you crunch it? Do you think it's a number?
And that's what Michael was saying. He said
Yeah.
he would come back next year and have that conversation, because they think that they can spend this year, and they know that they can spend it. And then based on that, back next year.
Spend the 5?
Right.
Right.
But again, that five is 5. The numbers are from 5 people in a SLE for a whole month. Right, so those numbers are gonna change as people move out, so, you know, we're talking about, so we weren't necessarily tied into a target number, as well as looking for, how much it would cost for that rate.
Seriously, all these houses. I guess I'm trying to, I guess it's the way it's, so I guess the confusion is around the way the budget is. So can you explain this? I understand what you're saying, but can you explain that document on how it's broken down, or that's the clarity that the CAB needs?
And that's what it is. So it's 1,000, one of the sober livings that we're working with right now, that's a similar contract on one of our subcontractors now for Health Right 360. That's about the going rate. So we know we can have 5 to 6 there 30 days if it was for the whole year, that total number, it'll fit in our budget. And so that's what we're, as I said earlier about my pro rate proclivities, that I can prorate that the fact is, so we're looking at basically 5,000 a month if we were at full capacity.
Okay. 5,000.
Yeah, and 5 times 12, that's we come with our 60,000.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so more than 5. So the hope is that it would be more than 5 participants.
Okay, understood, okay. Would that number also include other resources that you may need to be successful in that? Such as living skills or any other things that you may need to provide them to support them in their process?
So along with the housing, they have case management.
Okay, is that included in the number?
No,
Okay,
that's already included in there.
in the other part, okay.
The overall budget, yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure you were
Yes.
encompassing everything.
And that is also inside the jail, so with working with the women. So I know that she needs, tell me your name. Renee, I know that Annette and Renee need to connect up and collaborate inside the jail.
Have any questions? Okay, so since we went through all of them, the final decision is if we would like to make an approval to move for all of the requests.
Well,
I think that was the next step, wasn't it?
are you formally bringing forward the request to double the men of valor's?
It's really looking for purpose.
I apologize. Lots of words right now. Their budget, are you?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I think we should vote on that first, Nicole, and then maybe we vote on the others as a collective. Do you want to call it?
Oh, yes, I would like to double the amount that was requested. I believe it was $51,000 and change, double that amount for men of women.
Men and women of
purpose. I'm trying to get the exact amount. $51,635. I would like to double that for men and women of purpose because they said they could utilize that money and put it to good use for the current program. That is my proposal. Amendment.
I do want to also acknowledge that there are members on the board who are also employees of any of the specified contractors. So just keep that in mind in case there's any perception of conflict.
So they should.
That would be best practice. But
Abstaining,
they should
sure.
definitely determine that.
Do we have a second?
I know we got a first.
I made the proposal.
Oh, he made the proposal.
Individual vote, so.
So.
Discussion, I guess, or-
Yeah, I was gonna say, they should.
Yeah,
I love the idea, Crawford. What are we drawing that against in terms of an account? Is there money to back up this, or are we just saying we believe that it should be twice what they're asking for?
When you say what does this draw from?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Thing,
there's a pot of money somewhere. That's.
maybe 109 revenues.
Yeah, so I just want to make sure that, you know, we're legitimately voting for something that there's funding to back up.
Well, one could argue there's significant funding available in them
That's
because
the
there's a
point.
large fund balance, but then there's also the projected amount. I think it was somewhere around 30-something thousand, 30 million, excuse me, maybe off that is projected for next year. That said, historically, the county has budgeted over what we have typically received in revenue. That said, we also typically underspend what we've also allocated. So,
I just want to make sure I'm not voting yes.
but just to, also keep in mind, it's a budget process, right?
Right.
So you can put your request out there. It's up to CCP to deliberate and determine whether or not they want to move forward with that as well. So this this process goes through certain, chains, if you will. So you all are deliberating now, your request then will go before CCP. CCP will deliberate and approve their recommendations. That will then go to the Public Protections Committee, right, which is the standing committee of the Board of Supervisors. They will also deliberate and determine what request is forward, and then ultimately goes to the full board for final approval. So there's several lanes of it.
And so I'm just gonna
Thank
ask this question. I do believe everybody's, I do. So because you guys didn't ask for it, I don't have a breakdown of how that money is actually going to be spent. So what I hear is there is more and more of a need for women in Spanish speaking. You're saying double that.
That there's a chart there.
Well,
isn't
I know, but I'm asking whether you're saying across the whole.
Well, if you look, they were talking about mentors and, what page?
Well, no, I have it in front of me. I'm just saying for them. They
This
didn't
page
present-
right
I know
here.
they didn't present that and we're saying double what they're asking for. So it's kind of like what he said. We're just, I'm gonna double and give it to you. What up? And do what?
Okay, because of, I'm looking at increased services for people that are currently incarcerated, because they're not, look at the hours.
No, I understand that everything you're saying. I get it.
Okay, well, if you get it, then.
Well, no, it wasn't submitted. I will go around to the vote.
Okay, yeah. Okay, let's vote.
Is there any other discussion?
Yes, I have a question. First of all, I'd like to make a statement. I'm very much concerned, being formerly incarcerated myself over 40 years ago, and because there weren't services available at that specific time, I'm concerned. And that's why I'm sitting on this board and have been for the last 3 years. One of the things that I definitely always want to see is support for women, because women are the nurturers. Women are established as a family units. And anytime someone comes to this board, there has to be something inclusive for women. And we're gonna double money. I want to see women.
Right.
That's my priority, because I am a woman and I know the plight of women. You know, they tell you to pull yourself up by your bootstrap. That shit is totally, excuse my French, it's totally impossible without services and support. And we need to meet the women when they're coming, before they come out of the jail. So there's definitely room for improvement. And my support is going to be where we have a wealth of support across demographics, both for male and female. And definitely I'm in for women because we have the, what do we call it, reunification process, okay? And that's a stickler for me, reunification, because that's the family structure. So if you're coming to this board, you've got to bring some women, you've got to come across marginally correct equity, because that's what makes us function as a board, as a unit, and definitely we have to have it straight across the board. I'm just a stickler. We gotta represent our family structure. I'm gonna yield back. I said my.
I think, building on Nicole's comment, Gariana, can you go to page 19? So within their budget, there isn't any specificity on supporting women. And so are we proposing that this additional 51,000 or whatever you're saying, Crawford, would be allocated to support specifically women or a percentage of women? I think you're looking for, if I'm hearing you correctly,
Right.
you're looking for specificity
Correct.
on how these $51,000 are going to be spent.
Correct.
What I hear from you is that we should be prioritizing women. So in this ask, Crawford, are we saying how these dollars are being spent, or are we just saying this $14,000 per peer mentor is now going to be $28,000 per peer mentor?
And that's, yes, so it's, I agree with your point of it needs additional funding, but it's not, it wasn't submitted, it's not.
I see what you're saying. I would then lean towards those additional funds being geared towards women. Absolutely.
Great. So then I think the question would go back to them.
Can you provide services for women with the extra funding?
The answer is yes, but since they were excluded, ask our two women.
Most definitely.
Would they be able to tell me how they do spend it? Yeah, but yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, these two were excluded. They work in women and one purpose. So ask them. They would be.
We're not gonna have.
Yeah.
So this is,
Yes.
so this is what I propose, and forgive me, this is nothing towards the program as an individual at all. It's more of, it's not here, and for the sake of time, we have to fix it from the CCP. And we're not gonna have time to do so, and there's 2 staff members already here. I would love to be able to give them some more money on that. But they didn't. So because of that, I am okay with this. You just won't have enough to be able to, I mean, I love what you're saying, I do, but.
How do you know if we haven't voted?
Well, no, I'm just giving my idea. I mean, y'all can vote. I'll give you my answer. If everyone vote, we move forward, then we
Let's
can.
vote it
move
up or
forward to
down.
this. You have to vote.
I think we need to vote it up or down first, then we move on.
I'm with you, Crawford.
Yeah, hey, gotta vote.
That was yes.
It's all right. Let's be patient.
No, I'm just saying, I thought later. So it's not, it's like, it's individual, but it's shaped on. So everybody's going on.
Yes.
But I'm giving an idea. So if they wanted that, you gotta ask.
Yeah, I'll clean it up.
That part.
All this stuff. All right. Are we ready to have a vote or?
What is the proposal as of now?
Oh, geez. Okay, let's start again. Okay, we'd like to amend the proposal to increase double the amount of the requested amount of money from men and women of purpose. The additional funding would be geared towards women's services in line with the current services that have been suggested for the $51,000.
Give a second. So then, Gariana, can you call a vote? Please?
Yes, just to clarify, who was the second of the motion? Okay.
I'm going to just have to abstain.
Do I take the individual votes or do I take all in favor, all opposed, or any abstentions?
Both are the individual. Well, yeah, I think
You
you're gonna
don't need to do an individual. It's all in favor, all opposed, abstain.
Oh,
Okay, all in favor? It's,
How many eyes was that?
yeah. Can we raise our hand?
Raise your hand.
All in favor? I see Scott, Raina, Crawford, and Brenda. All opposed? Raise your hand.
I don't know, is that the, what?
Opposed means a no vote.
I see Nicole for one. Any abstentions? I see,
Means you're not.
Oh, can I not vote?
You can,
You
already voted.
Oh, well, just either way it goes, that's.
I
mean,
see,
I could have say.
I see Justin,
Or Ariana.
Ozzy, Raina, Curly, and Latanya. So that's 4. Patrice, it's tied.
Can I ask a question? Did I hear that there's somebody who works for Men and Women in Purpose on the CAB?
we have 2.
So did they recuse themselves or abstain? Because abstain is a vote, recuse means you're not voting, means you're not part of the vote.
They abstain.
They should recuse themselves. They should not vote, period, for anything.
Yeah, so,
Okay, with
An
that,
abstention is a vote. Yeah.
okay, with that in mind, let's do the abstentions again. How many are abstaining from this motion? I see 2. How many are recusing from this motion? Latanya and Rand. Okay, motion does not.
It's not a
Motion
yes.
carries. Motion carries. We have 4
Okay,
yeses,
great.
motion carries.
So then I move to make a motion to carry forward the page 16 budget, Ariana, if you can pull that back up. With the addition of the 51K that just got approved for men and women, the 500K from Lao Family, and the 60K from Health Right 360, and the edit of column 4 under Rubicon programs for 663 needs to be increased by 30K for the 5%. Carried into the last column. Just-
Before you do all that, I have a
Sorry.
procedural vote, Patrice.
I'm sorry?
Patrice, I have a procedural question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I have a procedural question. Yeah, for you, Patrice. So, you have a, a quorum of the board here. Do the votes to pass a motion require majority of the quorum or majority of the voting members?
Majority of the voting members.
So those people that needed, right, but you had 2 people recuse themselves. So is it a majority of the quorum? Or is it just
No, I'm
who,
sorry,
what gets the
majority of
most
quorum.
votes?
It would be
Right,
majority
so
of
did you have
quorum.
did you have a majority of quorum that passed that last
So
motion?
Jill, just to clarify what you're asking, they need 7 for the motion to pass. Correct?
Well, what's a quorum
7.
today?
Quorum for
7.
CAB is 7, so they need 7 for the motion to carry.
I'm
No,
asking.
majority.
I'm asking.
Quorum.
correct?
I'm asking, is that what you're asking?
Yeah. And I'm asking for clarification from Patrice. Does it need to be a quorum of the body to pass a vote? Or is it just the number in the room? You know what I mean?
It's a majority of those in the room. That's how the voting practices have been. So can you, Ariana, call the number of votes you have for, the number of votes you have opposed, and
For those in
Because
favor,
you have,
go ahead, Jill.
total.
yeah, I was gonna say you have 9 in the room, right? And you had 4 for that motion.
So if it's 7, so all in favor is 4 individuals are in favor of carrying the motion of doubling MWP's budget to serve women forward. If we need 7 for it to pass, then it does not pass. But we have 4, which is a majority of the votes in the room.
What's the quorum that we have today, the total number?
We have 9.
Which means you need 5, right?
5 pass. So we don't have, so it didn't pass.
Your operating guidelines do say majority of the quorum, simple majority of the quorum.
So we would need 5.
Yeah, so
We
it
didn't have,
pass, that's
okay.
okay.
So then I augment my request or proposal to be the 500K for Lao, the 60K for Health Right 360, and that edit on the Health Right 360 5 for the 5%. We have a second.
I second.
Right. Do we have discussion? So though, this would basically be the 2 additional requests that we heard today, as well as everything that's on the screen that has gone through Budget Policy Subcommittee as well as Programming Services. Any other discussion or question? Awesome. Ariana, can you call another vote, please?
Yes. When I say all in favor, can you raise your hand? All in favor? I see 1, 2, 3, 4.
All of us.
Five.
Everybody.
Okay, great. Motion, okay, all opposed? Any abstentions? Any recusals? Motion carries.
Anything else on this line?
That's it. Pass it back over to Robert.
Woo. Hey, you guys did an outstanding job, by the way, and, so we owe you a great deal of thanks, so very nice job. Okay, item number 6 on the agenda. Now, we're running past our time, but, we'll try to go through. Just a minute.
I will be short to the house here pretty quick, so whatever, if we can be timely about
Yes.
things, because if I leave, do we lose quorum?
No.
No.
Okay. So we'll move quickly.
Okay, we're on item number 6, which is to discuss an update on the CAB retreat. And basically, this will be the same as the CAB, OCEC information. Number one, we've already prepared a tentative agenda. And the new leadership should be in a position to finalize the agenda as well as the slides that we have made to accompany that particular agenda. I would have a question, Patrice, for you, please. The survey that you sent out, they want a one-day meeting or do they want 2 half-day meetings?
Carry on, you want to provide an update?
Yeah, after reviewing all the responses, the CAB retreat will be held on Thursday, January 11th from 9:30 to 3:30. Most of the responses voted for a one-day retreat. So we're going to work with, ORJ is going to work with the CAB leadership to construct a one-day agenda for the CAB retreat.
Okay, so now in effect then, we've set the stage one day and Ozzy, you'll get your lunch because you said you have to provide lunch or coffee or something, so you get your lunch. And the new board then will put their stamp on what they want. Again, now we've got an outline, we've got a roadmap, but you'll put your stamp on what you want to produce. So the best to do, and a few of us will be around to help if you do need assistance. Are there any other questions regarding the retreat? Let's move then promptly here to the next item. We have CAB subcommittees, external meetings. Can we start with Board of Supervisors, please? Anything there, Patrice or Jill?
I can jump in. Just 3 things to note. The Measure X Innovation Fund grant awards were granted. So there are a handful of programs that are going to be lifted up through Measure X funds. Some of those touch the reentry population. The Sheriff's Quarterly Oversight Report was presented in October. And November is Homeless Awareness Month, and there'll be a lot of activities going on. So keep your eyes open. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Jill.
Oh, and I will add, there was no PPC meeting. So there's been no PPC meeting at all.
Okay. Any CCP, any report from CCP?
CCP did not meet, other than September, so, they will be meeting on November 17th to, conduct a budget workshop. Thank you to you guys' approval today, as well as the budget request from other agencies. They will also have before them, an opportunity to approve you guys' revisions to the, operating guidelines, as well as approving CAB applicant Jeffrey Robinson to join CAB.
Great, great. There will be no meeting report from EPC. Thank you there. Let's move to the next item here, the ambassador meetings. There were several of those included in your packet. Hopefully you'll be able to read those. If I could just make one comment, get yourself a cup of coffee and go through those. And those of you that are continuing, you'll see you've got an agenda for next year if you just read the dad doggone ambassador. And if you read those ambassador reports, you're gonna hear what key decision makers are looking at in addition to your specific recommendations. So we'll just leave it at that unless there are any other comments. The next one will be OCEC. I think I've already shared with you that we reviewed the CAB retreat PowerPoint slides to make sure they're in sync with the retreat agenda. You should be in good shape. Programs and services. Any brief comments from programs and services? No, just bullets, your programs and these homelessness are. Do you have any brief comments you want to highlight? Just give us the bullets. You don't need to read the whole thing.
Just under, next steps for our next meeting, which is next week, that we're gonna be, we're gonna update which services each CPO provides and see what gaps there are,
Okay,
and document the needs, that they provided.
thank you. All right. Let's move next then to policy and budget. Any bullets from yours?
You know what we did.
We know what we
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, I think, thank you all for the discussion today. I think it was really fruitful.
You sure you don't want to elaborate a little bit more on your? Okay. Okay, Rena, we're back to you. Council on Homelessness.
So you guys know at the last meeting, they did, like a recognition ceremony, which was really nice, and it's more this month, just like Jill had said, they need to know, what's the updates, and just the next one is December 7th.
That's it. Okay, we're on to next steps. Who is really going to be our meeting next month where we're going to have our election of our new leadership team. And I guess before we adjourn, I'd like to make one or two.
Excuse me. So we were on and asked to show up, I think when you said whatever policies, and we were asked to show up here, right, to talk about our additional program.
No, at the work groups.
Huh?
It's at the work groups, which we haven't announced yet.
Okay, you have it enough. Okay. All right, we'll go back.
No, not, it's gonna be a different day.
It's gonna be a different day, okay.
Yeah,
All
we're
right.
gonna be hosting work groups for each of the different topics.
Okay.
And that's where we want you to come back and talk about that.
So that information will be provided each different, it'll be based on the recommendations, broken, like you said, housing, behavior, health, and so on, and be set for a particular month.
Okay, we're coming down the home stretch here. Prior to adjourning here, I wanted to mention the importance of the implicit bias training. If you haven't done it or haven't been refreshed, please do it. It can be eye-opening and an opportunity to do a little soul searching. And I listed some of the highlights that kind of may pique your curiosity. And these are key. And I've mentioned some of these to some of you around the world. Diversity is more important than smarts. A diverse group outperforms experts. Don't be you eggheads around, think about that. Be careful not to recruit in your own image. That can be dangerous. Create a welcoming environment. Treat others as they want to be treated, not as you want to be treated. Get to know better the person or persons you know least about. And then the final item that got my curiosity was gender diversity leads to novel solutions. So with that, we're going to adjourn, and our next meeting, and hopefully to select the new leadership team, will be December 14th at 10 o'clock. Thank you.